Good evening, everyone. I welcome you all to this enlightening session where we'll go through all your coding related topics, how to start coding journey, and address your queries and concern for the same. I would like to take a moment to welcome our speaker, Mr. Mohit Uniyal, lead constructor for data science and machine learning at Scalar, co-founder at Coding Minutes. He is currently pursuing his postgraduate program in machine learning and AI from University of Hyderabad. We are honored to have you with us, sir. Attendees are requested to maintain decorum and discipline throughout the session, and if anyone has a query, he or she can write that in chat box. All queries will be answered and addressed at the end of this session. We are pleased to have you on the board. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Piyush. Can anyone confirm if I'm audible and visible?
Yeah, you are audible, sir.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Cool. I think we can begin. Let me share my screen. Okay. So first of all, thank you. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining in. And all right. So this is a 1 hour session on coding orientation. So how to start coding, what sort of things you need to do in your college, and what exactly would be the roadmap for the next 4 year, let's say. Okay. So I just wanted to know how many of you from first year, second year, third year, maybe you can just write quickly in the chat so that I understand that, okay, majority of the students belong from, let's say, year one. So, okay, first year. All right, so mostly first year, second year. Great, great, great. So if you're from, okay, so someone from third year as well. Cool. So if you're mostly from first year, then most probably you would be just starting with your first programming language, or maybe just the basics of understanding computer. Okay, all right, all right. So around 70% of you are from the first year, and then 20% from second, and 10% from third year. All right, good, good, good. So we'll be talking about all these things, coding and how to start coding, from where you should learn, right? What are the resources that you can use? What sort of competitions you should participate in? All these things, right? So, and at the end, we will take a question and answer session as well. And meanwhile, if you have questions in context, you can also post them in the chat. I'll be also looking at the chat in between, and we'll pick the question. Okay. Good. So the agenda for today's session is to understand about the programming and the coding, right? Why, all about the technical things. Okay. So why to learn programming or coding, and what exactly is this programming thing, right? And how to learn things. So for example, you need to learn a very specific programming, let's say web development programming, and how do you go about learning that thing? Okay. So these three are the major agenda, and then also we'll talk about a few question and answer in the end. Okay, so can anyone post any reason that why one should learn to code, or why one should go into programming field? Any years, you understand that why you are doing this, why you are learning programming, why you are into this programming world. It is actually to make impact on the society. It is basically to create something, to create a product, so that other people, the society can use that product to improve their life. Okay. This is, I guess, the ultimate goal why we are into the tech world. These few 5 reasons are, obviously, these are the starting reason, but eventually your goal will change from your hyping jobs, or maybe tons of swags, from this factor to something like to create a product, to create an application that people find useful, okay, and people can use it in their daily lives. For example, obviously, I'll talk about a lot of example. One is Google Maps. Now, Google has a lot of application. Google Map is one. Google Calendar is one, another product that, in fact, I use every day. Google Calendar, Google Maps, right? Gmail is there, right? So all these products. So these products are created using the technology, which is the, let's say, Java, or your Android applications, or JavaScript, all these programs, right? So these are the few reasons that why one should start. I hope this part is clear. So And if you have not figured out right now, still yet, that why you are doing this, why you are, even if you're not pursuing the computer science engineering and you're learning programming, let's say C++ or Java or C language, why you are learning on your own, not just the curriculum C language, but if you're learning on your own from other resources, not just with the books that college provided you because you have to clear exam, you have to get 9 CGPA, but you're learning on your own, then understand that why you are doing this. Because if you have a reason, if you have a motive, if you have a goal, aim, then you would not drop in between, maybe after 6 months or 1 year or 2 years, if you're not able to succeed till this point, because sometimes it takes a lot of patience as well. All right, so let's also understand that what exactly the programming is. And by the way, the coding and the programming, they almost refer to the same thing. Coding is more of an informal term. Programming is like, I hope you understand what is program. Program is set of instruction that you give to the computer, and computer can execute that program. For example, if you write a C++ program, right? So what exactly you write? You write set of instruction that, okay, I will create a variable, I will iterate over from 1 to n, I will take the multiplication of 2. You are giving set of instruction, that is called a program. Okay, so the art of creating a program, or the process of creating a program, is called the programming. So this is a more formal term. Coding is like informal term. I'm writing a program, I'm doing something, I'm typing something, and that's called coding, right? It is an informal term. All right. So this is not the exact definition of programming. I have not taken it from the Wikipedia or something like that. Not, but this is a you can say a generic definition, right? So programming is solving real life problem. So one part is this: it's solving the real life problem by writing the efficient code. So these are the two terms that I will be talking about. Programming is solving real life problem by writing the efficient code. So these are the two things. Okay. So let's understand what exactly we mean by real life problem. Okay, let's understand what is real life problem. And then it is saying that you need to solve these real life problem by programming, right? You need to write code and solve these problems. For example, earlier people used to, for example, if what people used to do in earlier days before this technology or smartphone or devices, they used to remember the path from, for example, from destination A to destination B. Let's say from Hoskas to Pitampura in Delhi, if you are from Delhi, right? You know about these two places. So they used to remember this whole path that, okay, if they have to drive, they will be taking this path, this route, and so on. They will reach the destination. But in today's time, obviously, we are not putting our time, energy, resources on understanding that, okay, I need to take left and right and then all these things, right? We have Google Maps. And that's why I was talking about the Google Maps. It's a very popular application. And so Google Map is a product of Google. Everyone know about Google company. So Google Map is a product, right? So what it does, I hope everyone has used this application. They take your source and destination, and they find the appropriate or the shortest path, right? So they find the shortest path. For example, this, and here you have reached to destination B. Now, what you are doing by using Google Map, you are saving your time because you don't have to remember the path, right? You don't have to remember the route. You're saving your energy as well, right? So these two, that's why it is making human life better, right? So this is one example. We are solving the real life problem. Another application of real life problem could be your alarm clock. Your alarm clock, right? The clock that you get in your mobile phone. Earlier, people used to keep this big manual alarm clock, and they used to set the alarm, right? And now, if you see these days, we have alarm clock in our mobile phone. If I say, "Hey Google, wake me up in 2 hours," so it automatically sets the alarm clock automatically set the alarms in the clock, right? So that is again saving your money, right? Saving your money. You don't have to buy 3 alarm clocks for all the 3 different rooms, right? It is saving your money and also saving some resources as well. So you can see that there are a lot of real life problems, and the ultimate goal that I've told you in the why we need to learn programming. The ultimate goal is to create something that can impact the society in a better way, so that people in the society, they can use these applications for the betterment of self, and obviously for the others as well, right? So if you look at any big organization, they are contributing for the betterment of. Let's look at Amazon. Now, Amazon, obviously, it's a business, but they are solving a real life problem, right? The problem was we earlier we had to go to malls to look at the product, what products are available. But now we can easily look at all the products just by doing some few clicks, right? Even we can order, we can get the delivery even same days and the next day. If you look at multiple startups like Grofers, right? We can get groceries in 30 minutes. So all these applications, all these businesses, all these startups, they are solving real life problem, and that's what the goal of programming is. They can create something, they are creating something so that they're solving some real life problem. And the second point was the definition of programming. First was the real life problem, solve real life problem, and second was by writing the efficient code, writing efficient code. Now let's also understand that why it is important to write efficient code and what do we exactly mean by efficient code. Efficiency. Okay, so efficiency can be measured in terms of time and generally space, if you're aware about the space and time complexity. If not, let's forget that term. Efficiency can be, let's say Google Map is creating an application that takes a source and destination and it gives you the path from A to B, let's say from Delhi to Chandigarh. Now, one way is the shortest path would be you go from Delhi to, the shortest path would be from directly Delhi to Chandigarh, right? There can be another path that first take you to, let's say, it takes you to Gurgaon and then Madhya Pradesh and then Maharashtra and then Ahmedabad, Gujarat, and then it takes you to the Chandigarh, which is it first goes to the south and then it takes you to Chandigarh, which is obviously the first one will take you 6 hours. First one takes 6 hours to reach from Delhi to Chandigarh. This takes, let's say, 18 hours. Which is efficient? Obviously the first one, right? So the code that we are writing, it should produce the best output. Another example could be, for example, everyone know about sorting, right? Everyone know about a technique called sorting, an algorithm called sorting. There are multiple sorting techniques like bubble sort, merge sort, quick sort. A lot of things are there. When you go to Amazon.com, generally what we do is we can apply filters, right? We can apply filters. For example, I want to look at mobile phone having 8 GB of RAM. Now I'm sorting by, let's say, RAM, or I'm putting some filters. Okay, I want to sort by the price. I want to sort by the relevancy, right? I want to sort by the new product first. So this sorting, now Amazon has 1 million product. Amazon has 1 million products. Now, if you have to sort these products, 1 million product, and your sorting technique is bad, if your sorting technique is not efficient, then it will take 30 seconds, right? It will take 30 seconds to sort. Now, obviously, you cannot ask users to wait for 30 seconds and they say, hey, wait for 30 seconds. I'll sort the items first and then we'll give you the result. You cannot do this, right? No one will come to the Amazon.com, right? Or Amazon.in. Similarly, if I search for iPhone 13 Pro Max, whatever, right? And if it does not give you results in milliseconds, obviously the user experience would be very bad. Even if it takes 2 seconds to load, if it takes 2 seconds to search for that product, the experience would be very bad. And hence we need to write efficient code to improve all these day-to-day activities or day-to-day basic tasks, right? And this is what efficient code actually means, right? So it is not only about solving a problem, but how efficiently we can solve a problem. For example, in an interview, if the interviewer gives you a problem and they ask you to come up with a solution of this problem, right? It can be any problem. It can be any generic problem. Okay. There are 3 candidates and all the 3 candidates solve that problem. But obviously interviewer will look at which solution is the most efficient. And if they have only one vacancy, if they want to hire only one people, they will hire that someone who has written or given the efficient solution, right? And that's why solving problem is good, but solving problem efficiently is even better than that. So these were the two things that you always need to keep in mind when you are doing something, when you're solving something, right? Cool. So any doubts so far? Otherwise, let's move to the next topic, that what exactly you should learn if you are in your first year of your college, second year, and third year, and so on and so forth. Right? All right. Ashish says no. Let's move ahead. So these are the few major topics that you will learn in the next 3-4 years of your college. For example, recursion, backtracking, divide and conquer, greedy algorithm. So for example, there would be dynamic programming. Yeah. So there's this dynamic programming which is very popular in solving problems, right? So you would be getting a lot of problems that can be solved using dynamic programming. It's called DP in short, right? So these are the topics that we use to solve a problem, right? So there will be a problem that you will solve, and while solving the problem, you can pick any one of these topics that helps you to solve the problem. Okay. And some application that we have already seen that people have created or come up using the programming tools. They are Google Map, Snapchat, self-driven car, which is an example of machine learning AI, Google Home, Amazon recommendations, Google search, all these things, right? So Amazon, so there's a fun fact that Amazon earns around 40% of the revenue every year from their recommendation. For example, if you're buying a mobile phone, it also suggests that, okay, you can buy earphones, or you can buy maybe a screen protector, or maybe you can buy a back cover, right? And people do click on these products to add to cart button, right? So that they end up buying some extra things as well. So Amazon get a lot of revenue from this as well. And this is an application of machine learning and AI. And obviously it is making life easier, right? We don't have to search for product. We don't have to search for the, let's say, back cover separately. Cool. So let's come to the very first year of your college. That let's say that if you want to, obviously, like why we are learning, why we are doing engineering, or why we are into college, right? Why we are pursuing a degree program is because we want to secure a good job, right? For most people, it would be to get a very good job after fourth year, right? Obviously, to create an impact in society would be the ultimate goal. And sometimes we don't think about it, because if we don't have a good job, we obviously first thinking about ourselves, so that we can have a good job first, and then we'll make an impact. So I'll assume that this would be the case with most of you, right? Because having a good job, having stability will actually make you think about others as well. All right. So if you are in your first year, right? First year has 2 semesters, and let's say pick any semester that you want to right now. Let's say you are in first semester. Okay. Now, very first thing in the programming world, if you want to enter into the programming world, is you need to learn a programming language. It can be any programming language. There are multiple programming languages that I've just shown you. These are like 4 or 5 programming, like C, C++, Python, Java, JavaScript, Ruby. A lot of other languages are there. So very first thing is, I have seen people, they directly jump into the web development from the very first year, right? Even I have done that part as well. But that journey is not the ideal journey. And it is not that if it worked for me, it will also work for you, right? But this is a typical way that most of the students follow. They first need to learn a programming language. Okay, so programming language can be your C, C++, or maybe Java, Python, right? Pick any one programming language of your choice. So there is, for example, let's say Python. Yep. So if you're in your first semester, most probably you would be learning C++, C language right now. Because of the old BTech curriculum, you would be learning C language, but C is slightly outdated and it does not support object-oriented programming, which is often asked in interviews. So if you are learning C language, it would be very easy to migrate to C++. You can easily do this in 10 days or 15 days, maximum of 15 days, if you already know C language, right? C. But people do not use C language a lot these days. So that's why I would let's ignore this part. I would recommend you either learn C++ or Java. Now there is no partiality between C++ or Java. If you have an inclination towards Java, go for it. If you want to learn C++, go for it. They both are equally good. So there's another language called Python. I would not recommend Python in the first year of your college, but see, if you have a lot of inclination towards Python that you really want to learn and you have a goal that why you want to learn Python, if you have that mindset clear, then go for Python as well. I'm not stopping you to learn Python in the first year, right? But the thing is, people say that a lot of students, even a lot of working professionals say that, okay, if you know a lot of languages, then it means that you are a good learner. No, it is not the case. I would recommend you in your first year, just learn only one programming language. Don't switch to HTML, don't switch to Python, don't switch to JavaScript. Just learn one programming language, either C++ or Java. Python is also fine if you have a clear goal, but I would not recommend Python in the first year. I would recommend in the second or third year, depending on your use case, that why you want to learn Python. Okay, so what does actually learning programming language means, right? When do we or when do we say that I know a programming language? Okay, so when you can implement few things in that language. For example, let's say if you want to learn C++ or Java, okay, any of these language, one of the most basic thing is what is the syntax of this language look like? Do you know the syntax? How do we put a semicolon, or do we need to put a semicolon or not? How do we create a block? How do we create control flow, which is if, else, break, continue, all these things, right? Control flow, or maybe for loops, while loop, do while loop, if they have, right? Do you know how to create function in that language, right? Do you know how to create functions or modules or packages if they support the packages or modules, right? Do you know how to write object-oriented way? Do you know how to create class? Do you know how to create objects? How to create constructors? How to do copy constructors, function overloading, function overriding? Do you know how to do all these things in a language? If you know, then you are theoretically good. I'm not saying you're good in C++ or Java. You are theoretically good. You can score good marks, but you cannot implement in that language. So this is the theory part, and college actually focus a lot on theory. If you want to score 90%, 100%, 95%, focus on the theory part. But if you want to sustain yourself, if you want to crack good interviews, good companies, it is important to do the practical stuff. Okay, it is important to do the practical stuff, or simply known as practice. What would you do in practice? Solve questions. This is the most important thing. And I think this is the only thing how you can be better at anything, right? Just do more practice of that particular topic or that particular part. Okay, if you're not good with doing a bowling, like in cricket, if you're not good with bowling, what your coach would recommend? Do maybe 100 overs, right? Throw 100 or thousands of balls, right? This is how you improve yourself. So what sort of questions do you need to solve in this part, or in this language, programming language phase? So questions can be, do you know how to find a prime number? Given a number, do you know how to find whether this number is prime number or not? I'm talking about the basic thing, right? Do you know how to print factors? Do you know how to find if a year is a leap year or not? I hope everyone know about leap year or not, right? Can you print something like this type of a pattern, which is, I think, pretty common, right? This is pretty common kind of a pyramid pattern. Or do you know how to print this type of a pattern? This type of pattern, right? So these are the basic questions. Something like maybe these sort of questions, you can solve something like 20 to 30 questions, right? You can easily find the list of these questions, so no need to worry about this, right? That from where we will get these questions. there are plenty of resources. If you ask me, I can give you just one sheet where all the questions are mentioned, and you can start solving these basic questions, right? Since you are learning basic programming language, so you can start solving these questions. Now, if you start solving these questions, you're not only getting good in the theoretical part, but also in how to implement that if else, how to implement for loops, how to implement functions, how to create arrays, all these things, right? So this is the idea about the programming language. I would recommend that if you're starting your first language, if you have never done a programming language in your school or anywhere, right? If you're starting with the first programming language, spend maybe 2-3 months. You can spend somewhere around 2-3 months, not more than that. You can just spend 2 months to 3 months learning programming language, and that would be sufficient, right? Even if you give like 1 hour, 2 hours daily, you can easily complete in 2 to 3 months, because depending on the person to person, if someone who's a very quick learner, they can just solve it, they can just do it in within 2 months only, right? And if someone who is a slow learner, but that's fine. If that person consistently do every day, they can learn in 3 months, right? That is also fine, because we have 4 years. So let's talk about 3 to 4 months. So this is the first phase. Everyone needs to clear this phase. If you cannot learn all these things, there is no point jumping to the next source, right? Or next resources that you want to learn. If you're saying that, hey, I want to create websites, so why should I learn all these things? It is because that you need to have foundations, the basics strongs. If you do not create your basic strongs, then you will face a lot of challenges, a lot of difficulties while creating websites. Even in websites, these things will be used. A lot of times these things will be used. So it's not that you directly jump to how to create websites, how to earn money from creating websites, how to do freelancing. Rather, you focus on basics first. Okay, so this is one part. So phase 1 is clear. I hope this part is done and everyone know basic programming language. And the phase 2 would be, it's the most important phase. It's called DSA. Okay, I have seen a lot of people, they do not attempt DSA, and some people even do DSA maybe like 600, 700 questions. But we need to do. So let's talk about what exactly DSA is. DSA, the full form is data structures and algorithm. It is one of the most important. I can give 5-star to this topic, right? If you take any interview, 80% of the interviews you can clear just by DSA, just by this subject or this phase, which is topic 2, DSA. 80% of the interviews in good companies, you can clear if you are good with the DSA, right? Now, why exactly companies are focusing on this DSA, data structures and algorithm? Because there's something called problem solving. There's something called problem solving abilities, right? You remember the problem solving assessment that the exam we used to have in your in school, right? They used to check the same thing, problem solving. How efficiently and how gently you can solve a problem. Problem can be anything. Problem can be very generic. Problem can be, how would you sell this pen? This is a problem. Come with a solution, right? So this problem can be very generic, right? But in computer science, we talk about technical problems. We talk about, hey, how would you create? For example, whenever you open an Instagram, you see there is a search button, right? There's a magnifying button, explore button. When you click on that button, you see some recommendation from Instagram. You see some reels recommendation. You see some post recommendations. You see some account recommendations. How would you create that feature? This is a very open-ended problem. Now, to solve this problem, you obviously need to have a very, very wide understanding of that domain, or that is one part. But the problem-solving ability is very, very important. For me, that recommendation would be different. For you, that recommendation would be different. For third person, those recommendations would be different, right? So how would you create that recommendation system or recommendation engine is a very generic problem-solving question, right? So over here, they are not testing that you are giving a right answer or wrong answer. Rather, what is your approach? Okay. So companies do ask questions that actually checks your problem solving ability. And if you can show that you have a good problem solving ability, then they would be very, very interested in hiring you, because what companies are actually doing, companies are solving real world problems, right? The very first point you remember, companies are solving real world problems. Now they want someone who has this problem solving ability. So if you have the problem solving ability, they would be happy to hire you. Now, there can be a lot of ways how you can check problem solving ability. Those who have heard about exam called CAT for MBA, what they are doing, this CAT exam is also checking your problem solving ability. It has basic English and some maths question, some logical questions, right? So this exam is also checking the problem solving ability. Okay, so in computer science, companies ask this chapter or this subject called DSA. It has two phases. One is called data structures, and another one is called algorithms. Now in data structures, you will understand, see, when you start learning about data structures, all these things, DSA, you will understand that why do we have data structures, what exactly we use data structures for, what sort of algorithm we have, and what exactly algorithm means. How can you assess that your algorithm is good or your algorithm is bad, right? How can you compare two algorithms? Which algorithm is efficient, which algorithm is worse, right? So you will learn everything when you go step by step, but this is what you have to learn. So in data structures, there can be a lot of topics like arrays, okay? There can be topic like array. There can be topics like linked list. There can be topic like linked list. And then stacks and queues, right? You must have heard about, those who are in the second and third year, they must have heard about these topics, right? And then there is a binary tree, which is important. And then there is binary search tree, right? Once you start learning data structure algorithm, you will encounter all the questions, all the topics and questions as well. Then in arrays, you have searching and sorting. Searching and sorting. Now you might ask, hey, where do I use searching and sorting in real world? All these stack and queues, where do I use this stack and queue in real world? Are we learning just to clear exams or just to crack the interviews or companies? Or do these topics have some real world applications as well? Where do we use binary search tree or where do we use binary tree? These are actually implemented in companies, okay? They have some real world applications as well. For example, searching and sorting, I have just given you the example. If you go to Amazon website and you search for iPhone 13, iPhone 12, then out of 1 million product, they have to find your product, which is iPhone 13. If that searching will take 2 seconds or 3 seconds, the customer will never going to come back to Amazon, right? So they need to make sure that the searching is very efficient. Okay, so this is one application of the real world examples or the products. Right. So again, you will learn all these things. There are other algorithms like there's graph algorithm, shortest path algorithm. Google Map actually uses shortest path algorithm, which is plus dynamic programming as well, right? See, so all these points, all these algorithms that we have just written, they have some real world applications as well. So I hope that part is also clear. But again, how much time should we put into learning DSA, right? So since this is one of the most important phase or most important part in your entire college, I would recommend, see, this is my recommendation, I would recommend somewhere around 6 months you can spend learning data structure algorithm. Now, learning data structure algorithm also has two phases. One is learning your theory. Another one is learning your practical or doing by practice. So if you just learn theory, you can get 90% marks, 95% marks in your college. No problem with that, because college, they do check your theoretical or the conceptual understanding of the topic. But interviews do not ask the theory, right? Interviews or companies directly ask questions, and the questions would not be directly from, let's say, linked list or queues. They would not directly from the linked list or queues. The question would be very generic. The question would be very generic. And then you need to understand that, hey, can I apply array to this question? Can I apply queue to this question? Can I apply sorting to this question? Can I apply binary search tree to this question? What sort of algorithm and data structure should I apply on this question to solve it efficiently? Okay, this is what companies are looking for. They will give you a very generic problem. You will have no idea that what sort of algorithm and data structure I will apply over here, but they will give you 5 minutes to think. They will give you do a maybe kind of a brainstorming, right? Come up with a solution in 15 to 20 minutes or half an hour or sometimes even 45 minutes. For one question, come up with the solution in 40 to 45 minutes. Which data structure would you use? Which algorithm would you use? How would you solve this problem? And write the code. If you can come up with a solution, but you cannot write the code, that will be again your biggest disadvantage. And if you are doing this phase, which is first year phase, like 3 months, you would be able to write the code as well. Given the problem statement and the solution, like the not exactly the code solution, but the pseudo code, right? Or let's say the solution approach, you would be able to convert into the actual solution code because you have practiced multiple sort of questions, right? Let's say 60 questions or 50 questions. You'll be able to easily do. So this is what I would recommend to do till. So this is mandatory thing. These two phases are the mandatory, and no one should skip. I would recommend. No one should skip these topics, because if you are skipping data structures, then in web development, in machine learning, AI, or mobile development, Android development, iOS game development, you might face difficulties because they also use some logic and your data structure algorithm, some sort of data structure algorithm, like searching, sorting. And that's why it is recommended to learn these things in your first to second year. Like you can spend, if you are in first year, you can spend entire 1 year and maybe like 1.5 years. This is the maximum time that you can spend. I would recommend not to spend more than 1.5 years learning these two things, right? These two phases. It would be sufficient, more than sufficient. And to be honest, like if you are doing consistent, then it will take less than 1 year. No matter if you are starting from the zero or if you have some understanding, if you have already done code, if you do consistent every day, 1 hour, 2 hour, depending on the bandwidth you have, you can easily do these two things within 1 year. Very easily, very smoothly you can do, right? So again, it's up to you. Important is to maintain the consistency, and that's where the difference between a very good programmer and an average programmer lies, right? If you look in your class, then there will be someone who has already done the coding in their school, right? So let's say that person is in the level 2, not from the, let's say level 2, right? And you are right now in the level 0. You do not know anything. If you do consistent effort, right? If you do consistent effort, in 1 year or 2 year, you would be far above this level, right? Because I have seen personally that a lot of people, if they do not follow this consistent route, right, or the consistent steps, then they might not be able to go to that level, right? But it is very, very important to follow this consistency. And so if you do this every day, even 1 hour is fine, right? Even 40 minutes is fine, right? Taking 40 minutes is simple, right? Even if you do for 40 minutes, also fine. So I hope this part is also clear. The phase or the roadmap is clear, that what exactly you need to learn. This is the mandatory thing. If you can do this, right, almost like 50-60% companies you can easily crack, because they would be asking questions directly from the data structure algorithm topics. And there are some 200 to 300 questions. These are the standard questions. And if you ask anyone, maybe if you ask your seniors that what sort of questions are these, they can easily give you that entire sheet. If you want me to give the sheet for these 200-300 questions, these are the standard 300 questions that you can solve And while solving these questions, the mentality or the idea should be that I can improve my problem solving ability. I don't have to mug up the solution. If I'm not able to solve, that's okay. No problem with that. Look at the solution for every question. But the important thing is, if in future, if someone will give me the question, almost the same question, I don't need to look at the solution once again, right? So your problem solving ability would be improved by solving these 300, 400, 200 questions. Now, even in the interviews, some people, even Amazon and companies like Microsoft, they pick direct question from these 300 questions. And if you have already solved these questions, you will easily be able to do it in the interview part as well. And some companies like Google and some big names, they take the questions from these 300, but they slightly manipulate. They slightly change the problem description. They slightly add more complexity, but still the questions would revolve around these 300, 400 questions only. And that's why it is very important to solve these 300 questions, right? And you can easily get this sheet from 300 standard question. You can, there's a website called Geeks for Geeks. I hope you are aware about that website as well. So you can go and check that website. It's pretty simple, right? If you want me to give that sheet as well, just ping me on LinkedIn or send me an email. I'll provide you that part as well. No issues with that. Any questions if anyone has?
No, sir, not yet.
All right. Anyone? You can post your questions in the chat. But I can give the assurity. I can. This is like 100% fact that if you can do very good in DSA and problem solving, you will have a very good job. And because your problem solving ability has been improved, and that's why companies are happy to hire you, right? And this will actually serve the foundation. This will be the fundamental thing that someone who is into the tech or into the computer science, they need to learn these things. Now, those who are in second year or third year and they have done sufficient good DSA questions, if you have not done good DSA questions, then I would again recommend you to go back and practice some good questions in DSA so that you can improve your problem solving. Okay, so someone who is already in the third year or in the second year, and they think that, okay, I know data structures, but I need something for the projects, right? I need something for the projects. Because what is the ultimate goal of coding or the programming is to create something so that everyone, your people in your surrounding, in your society, in your college, in your tuitions, in your maybe colleagues, if you are doing internships, they can use that product. Okay, so and where do we apply these programming or learnings from the last 2 years? Okay, so we create something called projects. Okay, so it can be any projects. So the very interesting idea of creating projects is look around you and think about a problem. Think about a problem first, and then how can you use or leverage the power of programming that you have learned in the last 2 years to create solution for that. Generally, so this is a very good idea of creating one project, right, or one product. Generally, people or students often end up following this path that if you want to create a project, they either take web development, also called as web dev, or they take mobile development, and otherwise they recently this new thing called data science, machine learning, AI, right? In the new these are very popular. These are new fields, right? These are very new. But mobile development and the web development, these are the traditional two things that people or students often end up doing. I would also recommend you check that. Just check your compatibility, right? Do you like to create websites? Do you like to create mobile application? Do you want to do something with the data to help business grow with the data, right? Something like, for example, in the last 2 months, Zomato is not able to sell in one particular area, in that one particular code, let's say this is 110034. In this pin code, the sales are going really down for Zomato. What happened? What went wrong? Right? Why Zomato is not able to operate in this area? Figure it out using the data. Right? That's what data science is. Data science is helping business to grow. And machine learning AI, you know about a lot of examples like creating recommendation system, right? Again, helping business grow, creating self-driven car, creating voice assistant, creating machine translation that can translate from English to French, French to Hindi, Hindi to German, something of that sort. Right? A lot of applications are there for machine learning and AI. And in this phase, now I would recommend to play around, look for other languages, other tools and technologies, right? Tools and technologies. So in the first 1 year or 1.5 years, why I was not recommending you to learn a new language like Python or JavaScript or maybe CSS, Angular, React, right? A lot of demand is there for React, right? Is because that in the first 2 years, you are polishing your basics. Tools and technologies will come and go, right? For example, today we have Angular. For maybe let's say next 5 years, 7 years, there will be another technology that will come and Angular will fade away gradually, okay? But if you have a good understanding of what is programming, how programming languages work, basic things, then you would be able to easily pick up. And as a technologist, it is your responsibility to look at what is new things or what is the trending thing in the market, what industry people are actually using these days. For example, React is a very popular technology that people are using or companies are using for the front-end development. For example, creating websites, okay? So, and obviously this will happen. This will happen in the next 5 years. There will be another technology that will come and you would have to leave React in between and jump to that technology. But if you have a good foundation, then you will not face any major challenges. Maybe it will take 2 to 3 months to learn that new thing and you will be easily able to cope up with that. But your foundation should be very strong. So if you want to create your career in web development, then your foundation would be JavaScript. Your foundation would be JavaScript. Okay, so JavaScript, there are a lot of frameworks. There are frameworks like jQuery. When I started in 2016, I started with jQuery. And at that time, jQuery was the most popular framework or basically a small library for creating front end or for creating websites. Okay, and then while I was doing the internship, there was Angular 1. That was called Angular JS. The Google launched Angular JS. I learned that part, and then there's Angular 2, Angular 4, Angular 5, Angular 7. All these things are there, right? And then we have now React. So technologies will come and go, but what is important is JavaScript. If you are doing the web development, because for website, you need to learn JavaScript. There is no other choice, but you need to learn JavaScript. Similarly, for mobile development, there is Java or Kotlin. So if you eventually want to go for mobile development, then in the first phase, instead of focusing on C++, you can do Java as well. That's up to you, right? That's up to you. For data science machine learning, here is the time to learn Python. And in this phase, it will not take 2 to 3 months. Why? Because you already have a good understanding of what a programming language is. You just need to learn a new programming language that will hardly take 20 days. Okay? If there's someone who has done the first phase, and if you ask me to teach that person, I will teach Python in just 15 days, or even not just 15 days, only 10 days. 10 days would be sufficient to learn Python, because there would be just syntax change. For loop, we used to like for loop in C++ like this. There's a syntax change in Python. We used to write if else like this. There's a syntax change. We used to create classes in C++ like this. There is a syntax change in Python. That's it. You just need to compare C++ with Python, C++ with Python, and so on and so forth. It will take 10 to 15 days maximum. You don't have to spend 3 months, 2 months. Okay? And everything will remain same. You can print this pattern in Python also. You can print leap year, you can print prime number, you can do searching, sorting in Python also. But if you want to learn data science, machine learning, Python would be recommended. Okay, so for example, let's say you can see that what sort of technology you like the most. And in fact, I would recommend that go and talk to people, talk to your seniors, that what they are working on. If someone is working on web development, are they working on the back end or front end or DevOps? Are they working on data science, machine learning, deep learning? Are they working on iOS technology like Swift, right? Objective-C, what they are working on, talk to them and see if you are interested in that area or not. Because you don't have to learn all the 4 things. There would be a lot of other things. Someone would say that, hey, there's this new thing called blockchain. There's new thing called blockchain. It's there, right? There's new thing called game development. Okay. There's new thing called cyber security, right? All these things are there, but you also need to see that there are very less market for these domains. For example, for blockchain, there are not good number of jobs out there. For game development, very few people are required for game development. I'm not saying there is no job in game development, but there are very few people, and those who master this art of creating games using Unity or Unreal Engine, right? Their softwares. Those people are preferred over someone who has zero knowledge of game development. So if you are very interested in cybersecurity, like one of my friend, she was very interested in cybersecurity, right? She got the job, like, no problem with that. I'm not saying you won't get job in cybersecurity or blockchain, but it is important to understand your area. What do you like the most? Do you like to create your websites? Do you like to create mobile applications, mobile games, data science? What do you like the most? And then based on that, talk to someone who is already in that domain, that what you're working on, or how did you start, what mistakes you have made, so that I won't make the same mistakes, right? This is how generally people learn. I would recommend the same way, that talk to seniors, right? Don't learn in the isolation. Don't just sit idle. Don't just sit at home and disconnected with everyone, and then you're learning, and then suddenly you'll come after 4 years that I have learned everything. It is not how things work, right? So talk to people a lot. Even I hope you know about LinkedIn, right? So that is so this is like about the technical things. And I would also recommend you to, if you're learning the web development, create projects. It is the very, very important thing. If you are not creating projects, even in mobile development, if you're not creating projects, data science, machine learning, AI, game development, cybersecurity, if you're not creating projects, you are not implementing the learning that you have learned in the production, right? For example, you can pick any course for the web development, and you will learn the theory. Okay, you will learn theory for 2-3 months, but what next? The next 3 months, you need to implement this theory into the projects, because that's how you will do the practice. You will think of a game, you will think of an application, you will think of anything that you can implement in the website. Something like, maybe, can you create an e-commerce like Amazon? Because if you can create something like that, obviously Amazon would be happy to hire you, because you already have a relevant experience of creating a small mini e-commerce for your own project as a self project, right? So if you're specific, if you want to go to a very specific company, then look at what sort of problem they are facing, what solution they are building, and try to maybe replicate that solution on your own. Okay, in maybe web development, mobile development, data science, machine learning, AI. So again, so for the projects, you need to spend 6 months to 8 months, first 2-3 months in learning the theoretical parts, that what is JavaScript, how does web work, what is HTML, CSS, then create maybe basic, write something, because without writing, you won't be able to learn. It's not writing on the paper, it's writing on your laptop, okay? And then spend next 3 to 4 months in creating something meaningful, which is a project, okay? this and obviously after learning all these things, I'm saying that this would be done in, let's say, 2 to 2.5 years, but sometimes you might get overwhelmed by so many things in life, or maybe in your college, like you have your exams, also you have other things that going on, for example, cultural festival, technical festival, all these things as well. So do participate in that things as well, because you are right now learning in your college. You are learning not just the technical things, but also soft skills as well, right? So that are also very important. On the one side you have IQ on the intelligence quotient, and on the other side you have the emotional quotient, right? EQ. So EQ also contains something like your communication skills, your soft skills, other things, your networking. So these things are also important. And one thing that I would recommend is to have a good network. So use LinkedIn if you don't use, or obviously don't get overwhelmed by the LinkedIn, because a lot of people do post like, I got this job, I got that. So don't get overwhelmed by that, but use LinkedIn in a productive way. Okay, maybe we can have a conversation that how to use LinkedIn in a productive way, but start using LinkedIn and start building a connection or a network. That is important as well. So yeah, so this is another thing that I wanted to discuss. So almost like these are the few things that I wanted to discuss your in maybe in your 3 to 4 years. You can explore all these things, and obviously as a technologist you have to make sure that whatever happening in the industry, maybe you follow some blogs, maybe follow some tech news to understand that what sort of new technology is coming from tech giants like Google, Microsoft, Facebook, Amazon, right? So also follow some news as well regarding to the technology as well. So this is what I wanted to share. Any questions specifically about these topics, or any generic question if you have, let me know. We can extend by maybe 5 minutes to take question and answers. Sanket says, "Is there any language for game development?" So when I was exploring the game development, I saw this framework called Unity. So Unity 3D is the software that you need to use, and in that software we use the C# language. So I think you can look for that as well. So Unity software. So we worked with Unity software to create Unity engine. Correct. So maybe you can also look for this if you want to create some online games like web games, like that can work on the website. Then there's a JavaScript library called Phaser. This is a library for making games. Okay, online games, something like this. Obviously not some 3D games or some big games, but some short games you can create. And if you want to use Python, then there's also a package called Pygame. So I have used Pygames, but not a lot. I have just basic idea that I can create some basic game like that Snake or Space Invader game, basic games, but not obviously not expert in game development. So basic game you can create, so something like this, that you can do. Data science real life example. So a lot of examples are there for data science. One example could be one recommendation system is there that also comes in the data science. Another example in the, let's say banks, right? So HDFC Bank. Let's say HDFC Bank. So recently heard a news that HDFC Bank last year, not recently, last year, HDFC Bank was setting up their data science team in India, right? Now, what exactly was the role of data scientists in the banks is to analyze the customers or the users data if they have a good record of their credit score, or out of, let's say, out of 100,000 customers, the sales team will not randomly call to 100,000 people for a home loan offer or a credit card offer. What they do, they put these not thousand, 100,000, which is 1 lakh customers, they put all of these data into their data science softwares or algorithm or whatever the data scientist will do, and they will get, let's say, 1,000 potential customers. These are the potential customers who have a high probability of buying or taking a credit card or a home loan from bank. Now, what they're doing, they're saving the manual effort of callers, like the customer services, right? Those who used to call to the people or customers. So instead of calling 100,000 people, they're just calling 1,000 people, which is, and out of 1,000 people, maybe even if 200 people or 100 people take the credit card, they will have a very high output, right? So this is one practical example of data scientists, and they have to do something so that they can get this 1,000 people from these 10,000 or 100,000 people, customers. I'm from EC branch. I have studied basic Python in school. Is it necessary for me to learn C++, Java for starting my coding path? Eventually, if you already know Python, there's a very small drawback of learning Python is that there are a lot of abstraction. There are a lot of inbuilt function that you often use in Python. In C++ or Java, everything you have to do from scratch. So it is still okay that if you want to go ahead with Python, no problem with that. But always be in touch with someone who is learning, because individual learning will not take you maybe. So you need to do something called peer review as well. You need to be in touch with someone who is learning in C++ and Java, and then maybe once in a week or in 14 days, 15 days, you can sit together to discuss few things, that how do you solve this problem? How do you do searching? How do you create list and array, right? And then you will understand that there are some things in Python that are different from C++. And maybe you can also read some blogs. What are the differences of Python with C++? How Python is different from C++. So all these things are still okay to learn Python, but keep in touch with someone who is learning C++ or Java so that you can correlate. What are the differences? Okay. Then how should I start with WebDev or DSA? Should I start with WebDev or DSA? Either you should start with data structure algorithm if you do not know. If you do not know any of these data structure algorithm, if you are in the basic step of DSA, then again go back to the DSA to reach at least intermediate level, upper intermediate level, if not advanced, at least reach till the upper intermediate level, so that you have a good understanding of binary search trees, what are graphs, what are dynamic programming algorithm, all these things, right? So because eventually in the interviews they will ask you the DSA question, and very less probability of asking web development question. So I would recommend to spend maybe 3-4 months learning data structure algorithm, and then you have your 3 years, 4 years, or whatever time you have to learn web development. Ayush says, I'm in third year. I have learned C++ from the last 2-3 months. Should I jump to the web dev for the project? Ayush, again, if you have a good understanding of data structure, then you can jump to the web development, no problem. But I would recommend to not skip data structures. Again, if you have a very high inclination, and let me tell you the fact, out of 100 people, those who skip out of 100 people, those who skip data structure and directly go to the web development, only 10 of them has a success ratio, right? Success ratio as in they are not facing any difficulties, because while in the good web development, they have a basic understanding of data structure. But if 100 people opt for the data structures and they master or they have a good understanding of data structures, 90 people actually do good, or let's say 80 people do good in their careers. Because it is important to have the problem solving ability. No matter how you get the problem solving ability, but it is important to have problem solving. And DSA is one way of improving on the problem solving, and that's why it is recommended to do data structural algorithm before jumping onto technologies like React or TensorFlow, which is in machine learning AI. So that's why it's recommended to do the data structures algorithm. Even in the beginning, in the first year, I skipped the data structure algorithms, but later on, when I realized, then I again went back to the same phase, which is the very first thing. Okay, then I started solving these questions because I realized that it is important, and that's why I'm recommending you with the personal experience that later on you will anyway encounter. If you're not learning data structure now, maybe after 3 years when you are appearing for a job interview, or maybe even if you have cracked a job, you cannot crack good job without data structures algorithm. But let's say a good product based company, even if you have cleared, still you have to do the data structure algorithm. Someone who is 3 years into the industry and that person wants to switch to a new company, let's say a good company, they will still ask a DSA question. So strange, right? But this is the fact. So that's why I would recommend you to please go and polish your DSA skills. Because you're not polishing DSA, you're polishing your problem solving ability, right? The problem solving ability is the transferable skill. You can transfer from learning computer science to managing a team or having a leadership skill, right? So these are problem solving abilities, a transferable skill. You mentioned about one of your friend who was interested in cybersecurity. Can you tell about from where to start the cybersecurity? Which language do we need to learn it? I'm from first year IT. Good. So in the cybersecurity, in the very first year, I was also interested in cybersecurity, but later on, I figured out that, okay, I don't want to continue with the cybersecurity. But for cybersecurity, very important thing is the computer networks. The computer networks. And this is one area where the DSA will not come into picture a lot of times. Very few DSA, if you know, that's fine, because this is very different thing. This is not your software development role. Software development is the most popular job. Computer cybersecurity engineer or even in the ethical hacking, if you go, this is slightly different from what normal computer science student actually do, which is web development, machine learning, data science, mobile development, or software engineering, right? So if you are in to the cybersecurity, very important thing is to understand about the computer network. You would have to learn Python, and eventually if you're not learning right now, you would end up learning Python, because a lot of Python scripts you create in cybersecurity. Computer network is there, and then I think this would play a major role if you can. The prerequisite, I would say, is to learn about the computer network, and then there are some very specific algorithm for cybersecurity, like you have the cryptography, right, or steganography, and then specific techniques that are related to the ethical hacking and cybersecurity. That how do you understand about DNS? What is IP address? What is IPv4? What is IPv6? How would you exploit a vulnerability? How would you find the vulnerability? How would you overcome that vulnerability? Right? All these things are there in the cybersecurity. Maybe we can, again, if you want a roadmap on that, we can connect on LinkedIn and have a discussion over there. But yeah, so this is computer networks. Pick any standard book on computer networks, and this is one important thing that you need to learn. If you're in cybersecurity and you do not know what is computer network, then you haven't started yet. How to study for CAT along with coding? I don't know. I have never appeared for the CAT exam, so I won't be able to answer that question. But I mean, there are some specific. They're very generic questions. So pick any standard books or solve some questions. So maybe that's how you can do. But I'm not the right person to ask this question. So any other questions if anyone wants to ask? Otherwise, we can wind up the session. And Gaurav has given the feedback form, so you can also fill that. If you want to connect with me over the LinkedIn, you can send me a connection request. Let me just a second. Let me tell you. All right. So this is my LinkedIn URL. If you have any other questions, then we can definitely have a conversation over there. And yeah, that's it. Along with the computer networking, should I learn C++ or Python as my first year? Tushar, then you should learn Python. Just learn Python, generic Python. What is Python? What is programming language? And then you can also learn Python for cybersecurity. It is slightly different from the normal Python, but there are specific packages. How do you run the scripts? All that thing. How do you create Python script? Should I start my career with Java? No problem with that. Still, a lot of company actually use Java, so no problem. You can start with Java. So I think we can wind up our session now. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining, and I hope you got some insights from all the learning that I had in the last 4, 5, 6 years. And if you have any other questions, then you can send me on LinkedIn or shoot me an email. Thank you very much, and we'll see you sometime later. Thank you. Over to you, organizers, Gaurav or Piyush. Thank you.
Okay, so thanks a lot, guys, for your wonderful time. Okay, thank you, Mohit sir. So I hope you all understood how to begin with the coding, and yes, we'll surely implement what Mohit sir told. So see you guys next time. I request you all to kindly fill the feedback form given in the chat section. Thanks a lot once again.